What's going on, everyone? Today I am reviewing the Tamron 28 to 200 millimeter with an f-stop range of 2.8 to 5.6. Let's get started. Now, if you're looking to buy this lens or seeing what different options there are, you've probably looked at the price of this lens already. But if you haven't, the cost of this lens is $729 US on Amazon. So, number one, it's a fairly decently priced lens, but I'll tell you why it might just be worth it. So first and foremost, how much does this lens weigh? It weighs about 1.3 pounds almost, which is not too bad, especially if you're looking to put it on a gimbal or if you're just trying to travel light. I think this is a pretty decently lightweight lens, especially for how much zoom capacity it has. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the actual build of the lens. This is the first Tamron lens that I ever bought in my entire life, and it's suffice to say that I was not disappointed. From what I got in the mail and from how lightweight this was, I expected there to be at least some plastic in it, but I was very surprised, and the only plastic pieces are the lens cap and the hood, and obviously the cover. But outside of that, it's pretty much all lightweight metals. You get this ribbed texture on the zoom ring and the manual focus ring. And outside of that, I mean, it's a pretty well made lens. Also, when it comes to the build quality, a lot of people have been reviewing this lens and they say that the zoom isn't great and it doesn't feel great, but from what I've seen and what I've used it for, and I've used this for over a year and a half, I have never had a problem with the zoom on this lens. People say that it drops, but it doesn't. I can put it to halfway. I can literally just leave it there. It does not drop by itself. Even if I keep it right here, it does not drop halfway and then all the way. It's a very smooth zoom. It does not feel like it's gonna get stuck. It does not get jerky. It's actually pretty smooth. And again, the quality is just fantastic. So when it comes to the build, I give this an A+. The next thing I wanna talk about is the autofocus. You just saw how quickly the autofocus set up. There's the seat and there's me. It's pretty quick. So I'm gonna go back to the chair. So as you can see in my quick demonstration that the autofocus is actually very quick. I have seen faster, I will say that. I've seen a lot slower as well, but I have seen faster autofocus, but this still does a fantastic job for the amount of variety that this lens provides. Now, the one downside when it comes to the autofocus, however, is that when I'm zooming in, especially for product photography or videography, if I zoom in too much onto something, it just won't focus. It just won't find what I'm trying to focus on, and it just doesn't have that capability. So I will say that that is one of the downsides of this lens, is that when you're trying to zoom in too much onto something close up, it just doesn't do a great job of picking up what you're trying to zoom in on. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about the lens is the most important thing in my opinion, is what can you use it for? And in my opinion, this lens is probably the best all-in-one lens that you can use for a variety of different types of photography and videography, not just photography. This is a great lens for some videography as well. Again, the aperture range is 2.8 to 5.6, which gives you a pretty wide range for what you might be shooting, especially the uses that I've gotten out of it. I mean, I've never had a problem with the f-stop range. So what can this lens be used for? So the number one type of photography and videography that you can use this for is landscape and travel photography. And again, always remember videography as well. I want to specify that constantly, is that this lens is actually not just great for photography, but videography as well. Back to travel and landscape photography, I have traveled so much with this lens. Not only is it lightweight and it makes a great travel lens if you're just looking to travel light and travel with one lens. This gives you, anywhere from a wide perspective to a narrow perspective. This is a very great lens for travel and landscape, whether you're trying to shoot yourself or trying to shoot portraits or whatever it is within a landscape or just the landscape itself. I think this is a fantastic lens for that. And that brings me to the next type of photography and videography is portrait. I mean, there's really nothing I can say that will disappoint you when it comes to this lens and portrait photography. The incredible amount of sharpness that this lens provides, especially in portrait photography, no matter how much you zoom in, it was astonishing. I definitely recommend this for some portrait photography, especially if you're shooting for weddings, if you're shooting for travel, if you're shooting for really anything, any kind of portrait photography. I think this is a great option for you. Even if you're shooting inside of a studio, this is a great option. So another great type of photography that I've used this for, which was actually very surprising. I recently got into product photography and I wanted to see how this lens specifically would perform in product photography. And again, I was just not disappointed. I started shooting some photos for Alani Nutrition, and I also shot some for Slate Milk and a bunch of other companies. And honestly, the photos just turned out so great. I was very surprised. I didn't think that this lens would be able to take the quality of photos within a product photography studio that it did. And yeah, I mean, I'll put up some examples, but this is a great option if you're looking to get into tabletop photography or tabletop videography or whatever the case may be. This is still a fantastic option. So if you know my content on Instagram, you know that I am in the fitness world. I am a personal trainer and I shoot a lot of fitness content. And that is where this lens has been used the most so far since I've had it, is within the fitness realm. So I have been using this not only for my own photography and videography when it comes to fitness, but also other people as well. And I have to say that it's probably the best lens that I've used compared to my Sigma 16mm or any of my other prime lenses. This lens does allow me to move as quickly as possible in a fast-paced environment. I don't have to, worry about changing lenses. It still provides a great all-in-one range for me, and it's so well built, and the photos always turn out extremely sharp. The videos are very stable. I definitely would recommend this if you are one of those people who have to go shoot extremely quickly and have to shoot a lot very quickly as well, especially in a fast-paced environment. I couldn't emphasize that more, is when you are shooting for fitness or you're shooting cars or anything else, this is a great lens because you're able to just constantly go in and out, and it has a pretty decent zoom range. So yeah, I mean, fitness photography and any kind of fast-paced photography, this is great. And speaking of fast-paced photography, car photography is definitely something I've fallen in love with, and this has been a huge lifesaver for me. I've tried shooting cars with prime lenses. It's fantastic. They do come out very sharp. However, when a car is moving or if a car is going down a track, I need a lens that can do multiple things for me. I need it to be able to zoom in, zoom out, get multiple cars in the shot, whatever the case may be. This is a fantastic lens for that. Again, photos are extremely sharp all the time, and they just turn out really great, and I don't have to, again, worry about switching lenses. So for car photography, again, any other fast-paced photography, this is fantastic. And the last thing that I've experimented with this specific lens is low light photography. So we went to the Arches National Park in Utah, and we were there in the middle of the night. I think it was like midnight, and we just wanted to shoot some low light photography. So I put this lens to the test. I'll put some examples up on here, but the photos actually turned out very great. They weren't as great as a prime lens would be, but surprisingly, they were still pretty good. So if you're ever in the need to take low light photography and you're traveling and you're not taking any of your prime lenses with you, this is still a great lens to use. Again, it might not turn out as great as prime lenses would, but this is still great in low light. Also, in portrait photography, you can also use this in low light, and I have some examples here as well where I was shooting a Halloween shoot in public, and it was dark. It was, you know, they had some neon lights out and everything, but it was still pretty dark outside, and I still was able to get some fantastic shots with this lens. Again, in low light situations, I know prime lenses are usually the way to go, but this lens still does a fantastic job, and I was very, very delightfully surprised when I was taking these specific shots in low light, and they turned out this great. The other issue I've noticed when it comes to the photos that I take from the lens is the distortion that happens. There is a slight bit of distortion. Sometimes there is a lot of distortion. However, I usually don't have an issue with it once I go into post and I'm editing and I just fix the distortion. Obviously, I had to crop out a little bit of the photo, but I just try to make sure that if I'm taking a specific photo for a specific reason or for a client, I make sure that I get all kinds of different ranges so that if I do need to crop in because of distortion, I don't have too many issues. However, that is a second downside for it, but it's not terrible. Anyways, guys, that is my review for the Tamron 28 to 200 millimeter f2.8 to 5.6 lens. Again, I think it's a great lens. It is definitely the primary lens that I use, and I wanted to wait until the end of this video and say this is my favorite lens. No, I am not paid by Tamron for this. I don't have a big enough audience, so make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like this video. It's free and it definitely helps me out. If you want to see any more reviews like this, if you want me to go out in the field and demonstrate specific photos for you, I can definitely do that. But if you have any suggestions, please put it in the comments below. Again, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.